Today we're going to be going over some fragrance clones that are pretty much spot on. They're about as close as you can get. If you want to save money and smell like some much more expensive scents, this is going to be the video for you. First one is Supreme L'Homme Eau de Parfum by Fragrance World. I think the name and somewhat the shape of the bottle gives this one away, but it's a Guerlain L'Homme Ideal Eau de Parfum clone. And you know, it's always important to understand that just because something might have a similar name and kind of a similar bottle and style, that doesn't necessarily mean that it actually smells like what they're trying to portray it as. However, in a lot of cases with these Fragrance World clones, they do actually smell very close. They're a pretty solid clone brand when it comes to that. Not only capturing the scent itself, but even sometimes kind of replicating the presentation a little bit. And so just understand that I'm not just going off of, oh, hey, the bottle looks like it, so it smells like it. Yeah, the bottle looks similar, but the scent itself is shockingly close. You get that cherry, you get that almond, you get that vanilla. Man, it's such a great smelling scent. Are there differences? Of course, and there are going to be differences with all of these. Now, one of the main things you can tell with this one when you spray it is, yeah, you get that cherry, the almond, you get everything that L'Homme EDP has, but this one has a little bit more of a freshness, and I mean just a tiny bit more of a freshness, okay? But that's kind of one of the main things. I think when you're smelling them side by side, most people would really have a tough time telling them apart. I think a lot of people who have spent time with the original would be able to tell, but it's still pretty close, and for most, this more than does the job. And to be fair, L'Homme Ideal Eau de Parfum isn't all that expensive to begin with. Usually you can get it anywhere from $85 to $100 depending on where you're shopping, which isn't really all that bad in the grand scheme of things. But this typically is going to be around, I don't know, 30 or something. So still you have some savings and you have some more money to work with that you could put into some other things as well. Okay, this next one is Al Haramain Amber Oud Carbon Edition. This is a fantastic Creed Green Irish Tweed clone. Now, there are others out there. One of the most popular is Armaf Très Nuit, which is great, and it's usually around $25 to $30 or so. Actually, might even be about $20 at this point. Great stuff. Talked about it. Love it. If you want probably one of the best quality, best performing Green Irish Tweed clones, it's going to be this one. And so understand with these Amber Ouds from Haramain, they're a little bit more expensive than your typical clone scent, but still nowhere near as expensive as the original. So where Green Irish Tweed, it's hard for me to say, Green Irish Tweed, where that one is usually $200 or well beyond, depending on if you're going retail and where you're shopping, but $200 is like you're doing good if you can get it for that. This is still going to be, you know, $50, maybe $55, maybe $60 or something. So again, still savings to be had. But it's impressive how close this is, to the point where, you know, as someone who obviously has Green Irish Tweed and I smell this, it really just kind of makes you scratch your head and go, just kind of think about how crazy the markup is on this stuff, basically, because the quality is incredible. I have got no complaints about this. It's borderline to the point where if this actual scent liquid was bottled into a Green Irish Tweed bottle, I don't think I would think that something was up about it. I would think maybe there's, if anything, a little bit of a variation between Green Irish Tweeds that I've smelled over the years. But other than that, I wouldn't really think that it was a fake or a knockoff or something. That's how close this stuff is. Great performance as well. You know, Green Irish Tweed has never been known as a performance beast. But this one really holds its own. Actually, could even be a little bit of a better performer compared to Green Irish Tweed as well. So that's something that is also an added bonus there. And I really don't need to explain the scent DNA other than it's a green, lemon verbena, iris, ambroxan-based scent. Focus on the key term green here. It smells like spring, which is perfect for right now. Let's go for Alhambra, yeah, Eau de Parfum. I think it's written on the wall with this as well. It's Y Eau de Parfum clone. Just like most of these, there are other clones of Y EDP. You just kind of have to take your pick. Whichever one catches your eye, whichever one you get the best deal on or whatever is kind of the one you can go for, because generally when we're talking about these big brands, Fragrance World, Alhambra, Lattafa, Paris Corner and stuff, they're all pretty much going to be good. And so Lattafa has Facar Eau de Parfum. And then Alhambra is kind of like a branch off of Lattafa, so essentially kind of the same brand. And this also smells a lot like Y Eau de Parfum, and to the point where you almost kind of wonder, is this just Facar Eau de Parfum scent into a different bottle? It could be. But ultimately it has that sweet apple, the lavender, the geranium, sage, all of the aromatics that you get in Y Eau de Parfum. It has all of that. It smells really close. Y EDP is typically around $100 on discounters. This is $20 to $25. Great performer. Maybe not quite as good as Y EDP. I mean, that stuff is just so strong and it's a lot to keep up with, but still plenty good for the price. Let's go for Al Haramain Detour Noir up next. You can see my paint is kind of wearing off, so that's one thing to keep in mind. Again, you're paying $20 to $25 for something like this, so you can't expect ultimate rigidity, but you know, they do have the name and stuff painted on, and that will come off. Not from me sitting there and rubbing it, but when you have bottles sat together and you kind of set it down and it goes like this, over time that wears off. But there are differentiating factors between this and a couple of the others within the line, so you can tell even if that was completely gone. But Detour Noir, it's a Layton clone, and it's well known at this point. Layton, again, you're lucky to get it for $200, most of the times more. So this is, again, into that low $20 range. And it smells just about near spot on to Layton. It's crazy. There are some other clones out there. There is Amber Oud Exclusive Blue, which is an odd one because it's not actually Al Haramain. That's a whole different story. I've talked about that stuff plenty. It's more expensive. Let's keep it more affordable with something like Detour Noir because it more than gets the job done. Has that vanilla, has that kind of green minty kick off the top. Nice and sweet with that apple as well. Now, Layton is super popular. It's a great entry-level niche scent, even though the price point is definitely not entry-level. The price point on this one is, and it's a great way to jump in. Okay, we're gonna go for a clone of basically, kind of, in one way or another, a discontinued scent, although not really either. It is Lattafa Sacrat, okay, coming in at, yep, an Eau de Parfum. I had to double check. Kind of cool. You can see you got the plate right here with the name and the brand name and stuff. And then right in there, you've got like the bottle size, Eau de Parfum, all of that stuff too. Kind of cool little detail that definitely isn't a requirement, but it's cool that they have that. And so what is this one? It smells a lot like Aqua di Gio Profumo, now rebranded essentially as Aqua di Gio Parfum. There are slight minor differences between the two that I've also talked about. Ultimately, though, it's not a point of concern. Like, I don't recommend people to go out and try to find Aqua di Gio Profumo. Just get the Parfum or get the clone if you want to save some money, because this one usually is in the mid $30 range, and it smells a lot like that DNA. And what is that DNA? Smoky aquatic. It's the easiest way to put it. You get that incense patchouli combination with the fresh aquatic Aqua di Gio smell. That is Aqua di Gio Profumo in a nutshell. And Aqua di Gio Profumo Parfum is generally, well, the Parfum is going to be up over $100. Profumo, it's discontinued, going to be well beyond that anyway. But again, you still got big savings here. Good performance, Eau de Parfum, whereas obviously Profumo Parfum is a parfum, but it still holds its own for the most part in terms of performance there. It's well above average of most other summer-based aquatic scents. Okay, let's go for something that's more fall and winter leaning, but could work great for a spring evening too, something a little bit more formal. It is Vaux Elegante by Paris Corner, essentially is what it is. It's their Amir lineup, but it's Paris Corner. And this is a Xerjoff Naxos clone. I mean, can you tell? You've got that frosted glass with that similar coloration, the gold accenting. Bottle shape and stuff isn't really all that close, but everything else is, and it's still pretty clear. But also, the scent is really, really close. That honey tobacco mixture, which is what Naxos is known for, is being used to perfection here, and it works really well, and it's very close. Stuff smells great. I mean, this is one that I think you should definitely look into trying. You know, not everybody's gonna like that tobacco honey, but that's a good thing about something like this. This clone is affordable. So if you end up buying it and you don't like it, at least you're not out a ton of money. Whereas if you bought Naxos for $150, $200, you're out considerably more if you don't like it. Next one is Futura La Homme by Armaf. and it's a Dior Homme clone. So Dior Homme / Dior Homme Original basically is what this one smells like, but this was out before Dior Homme Original, and so it was just a more affordable alternative to Dior Homme with Iris. That's really all there needs to be said about it. It's nowhere near as fresh as something like Dior Homme O back in the day, or a Prada L'Homme, but it's also not as sweet as Dior Homme Intense, hence smells like Dior Homme. And I like that DNA. It's a really nice everyday wear. You know, it still has a little bit of a slight powdery sweetness to it. So again, it's not as fresh as something like Prada L'Homme, not as heavy as something like Dior Homme Intense, or even Gentleman EDP or Dior Homme Parfum or something. So it's just kind of a middle ground. Let's go for Prada View Absolute. Okay, this is by Fragrance World as well. Again, they have a commitment to going after the bottle presentation, and it just needs no explanation. Stronger With You Absolutely clone right here, and a really good one at that. You know, Stronger With You Absolutely at one point was just hard to get, nearly impossible. Discounters couldn't find it, retail not available here in the US. Just good luck. Now it's been readily available for some time, both at retail, at like Macy's and stuff, but also discounters have been holding it for a while now too. And so, you know, again, still savings, but back when that one was unavailable, this was nice to have just because at least you could get the scent DNA in your collection. Even if you wanted to spend the money on Absolutely, if you physically couldn't buy it, nothing you could do, that's when this came in handy. But again, still savings to be had, $30 or so versus usually around $100, but it's got that chestnut, vanilla, tonka, Stronger With You DNA with the rum down to a T here. We'll finish this video with the Icon Eau de Toilette by Antonio Banderas. It is a Sauvage EDT clone, basically is what it is, and it smells so close and so good as well, especially for the price, like under $15 for this, which is crazy because Sauvage is $100, and even some other clones or similar scents like Prada Carbon and stuff are still, you know, $60, $70 or whatever it might be. This is by far, at least from what I understand of, one of the cheapest but also one of the best Sauvage Eau de Toilette clones you can get. Again, for $15, you might think it's going to be a throwaway, but it is not. It's shockingly good. Seriously, next time you're making an order, toss this in. It's basically the cost of expedited shipping is kind of what I like to say, because really $15, I mean, come on. It's way better than you would expect. Alrighty guys, that's gonna do it for me. Some spot on fragrance clones that are just really impressively accurate. I'll link them all down below. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.